Hi and welcome to the Homeopathy Health Show. I'm Atiq Ahmed Bhatti, a fourth generation homeopath with over 25 years of professional experience and practice in this field of healing. The Homeopathy Health Show is the online voice of homeopathy around the world, promoting and raising awareness of this truly unique system of healing, which is suitable for all ages, young and old. Every week I invite guests from the world of homeopathy to come and share their experiences, their work, offer insights, and essentially talk all things homeopathy. Why not visit www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast button to listen to the latest episodes. So let's begin today's show here on UK Health Radio, the world's #1 talk health radio. Hi, welcome to another episode of the Homeopathy Health Show here on the UK Health Radio Network. And of course, and as always, I'm one of your hosts, Atiq Ahmed Bhatti.
And I'm Naila Chima. Welcome to today's episode.
So you will know that a few weeks back, I had the great honor to have Luke Norland on from the School of Homeopathy. And we were talking very, very deep indeed, I have to say, about his pioneering work on I Ching, human design, and homeopathic practice. And we spoke about a number of things, the concepts of Kabbalah, the chakras, Ayurveda, Rudolf Steiner's threefold system. And we also spoke about Jan Scholten's periodic table and Peter Terminello's crystal structures. And you will know that just last week was part 4 with Peter Terminello, where we're talking about the cubic and hexagonal structures of gems and the healing properties. So it's absolutely perfect as far as time is concerned to welcome back from myself and Naila our very dear and good friend, very respected friend, Luke Norland, for part 2 of this, I think, a very enlightening episode. I think it's going to be indeed. So welcome from the both of us with open arms and a virtual Zoom hug.
Yeah. Well, I love the real hugs more, but thank you for the Zoom hug, and thank you for the introduction, Atiq, and thanks, Naila. It's really nice to have you co-hosting with Atiq, and I'm looking forward to talking about this some more. So, yeah, I'm going to dive in, and I want to try and simplify this as much as possible, which has been my aim in the intervening time since we last spoke, really. So last time we looked at the foundations of what I'm trying to synthesize into homeopathy, which ultimately is the I Ching, which is an ancient divination text. It's probably one of the oldest books in the world, essentially. And I want to show how it can be used in conjunction with Hahnemann's idea of the mistunement of the vital force. So basically, when you look at the I Ching, it's a circle with 8 patterns around it that are called trigrams or bagua. And it's an interesting myth that at the start of the being that gave birth to the I Ching was called Fu Qi, who was half serpent and half man. And he's like a deity almost. And he observed this pattern in a tortoise shell and was able to perceive that there are like these 8 building blocks in nature. So we have heaven and earth, thunder and wind, water and fire, and lake and mountain. And all of these, they're formed out of patterns of 3 different lines, which are solid or broken, which mirrors binary code, which is noughts and ones. And it mirrors Morse code, and it mirrors the DNA. And when you do 8 times 8, you get 64, which is the same as our DNA. So essentially, what you've got is this mirror. A divination tool means that you're trying to access the divine from a human experience, essentially, which aligns with Hahnemann's what he writes about healing, which is that to heal means that you are able to explore the higher purposes of existence, essentially. So basically, it's like a mirror of reality, and so it's kind of saying that there are only 64 filters that you can have of reality, and when you boil that down, you go back down to 8, and if you boil that down more, you get 4 different polarities, and that's where I've gone to now. So at the heart of this system that I'm developing, there are 4 different types essentially, and that parallels what Jung did with his 4 different types: the thinking type, sensation type, the intuitive type, and the feeling type. So there's precedent for it, and it's obviously there's something attractive about being able to work with a system where there's only 4 things that you have to learn. So that's where I'm going with it. I'm trying to make it simple and accessible, essentially, because that's what I need myself as well.
Yeah, fascinating. You know, I mentioned last time how excited I was, and I still am, ladies and gentlemen. I'm still excited. Well, there you go. Anyway, but and I hope, Nyla, you're just as excited as me. But it's extremely in depth, and I want to pick up on polarities, because with homeopathy, we talk about remedies. Some remedies are very in tune with have polarity states, right? One
Yeah,
extreme to the other, but
yeah,
here we're talking, when you talk about polarities, we're talking about the human condition. Is that correct? As far as
yeah,
putting uh, us into categories,
yeah.
if we can. Am I right?
Yeah. I like to think of them as like a bandwidth. And there are these 4 different bandwidths that remedy frequencies belong in, essentially. And when you're well, you're able to move quite seamlessly. You know, you can picture a circle, and the well person is in the middle of the circle,
Hmm.
and depending on what they need to do, they can move. They can become like fire, or they can become like water, and then they can shift back to the middle, and that's health essentially. Is that ability to change and shift according to the need, whether that's you're fighting off a viral infection, or you've had a bereavement or a sudden shock. You're able to respond to that and then come back to your balance point, to your center.
Oh, do you know what?
Yeah,
That is really enlightening, because that makes so much sense. But sorry to interject. It's just because I'm going to forget. But
yeah,
I should have taken Califos before I started the episode. But anyway, again, going off on tangent.
yeah,
Um, but does that mean that we're almost looking at these survival mechanisms as such, and they become a personality trait when it's needed? Is that right? So like we put on a
yeah,
hat for work, we put
yeah,
on a hat when we're just talking,
yeah.
and we put on a family hat, etc., etc.
Yeah, exactly. And we have certain areas that are like comfort zones, and then we have certain things we have to do that take us right out of our comfort zone, and
Hmm.
we feel like we're in alien territory. But for
Yeah,
someone else, that's their comfort zone, and they're totally happy doing that thing, whatever it is. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, we get used to being in a certain zone or a certain bandwidth, and that's the thing. There's 4 different types is what I've perceived out of working with the I Ching, essentially. So the it's a bit like Sankaran's idea of the other song. You have a natural attunement to a certain type of melody, if you like.
hmm.
And within that bandwidth of that melody, there are groups of remedies that hold more resonance and therefore more healing potential for each individual. And this can be used alongside our usual approach of gathering symptoms and seeing like, what do the symptoms tell us?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah. And so,
Fascinating.
yeah, thank you.
No, it's really, really
Um,
good. It's interesting, isn't it, Nyla, when we talk about, I know you were going to jump in there. It's interesting, isn't it, how that weaves into us, who we are and what we're supposed to be, and how we can survive in certain situations, right?
Definitely it is, because many of the listeners know, and some don't. Luke is my tutor as well, and I've been fascinated by the amount of work he puts into the thought that comes into his
Mm,
mind, and then he brings everything together. And we have been exchanging emails and thoughts i- during my final 2 years of studies, and through emails, about these 4 archetypes, or these 4 personality traits, or I like the word bandwidth. So we
Yeah,
mm.
can see our polarity state. Okay, this is me,
yeah,
it's natural me. And this is me when I'm not me myself.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
do I come back?
Yeah.
Do I come back or do I need a remedy to come back? So
Mm.
would you like to tell our listeners what are the four different percent?
Yeah. And I'll put it in context. So for me, I was used to working with Mappamundi, which is exactly the same. It's a circle with eight, four elements and four temperaments. And they're the work that Joseph Rev did in Israel and that Misha, my father, taught me is that there's these four polarities. So essentially it's the same thing, but the Mappamundi looks more at symptoms and the I Ching is looking more at I would say the dispositional level of the person, like how they meet external reality, you could say. But there are layers to it. And I was looking at it in terms of, oh, this case is a heaven over earth case, or this is a thunder wind case. And I thought, how can I make this more accessible to my students? Because I want to share this with them. So I thought about it and I was like, if I turn them into Lord of the Rings characters, then it works quite well. So
Woohoo!
heaven over earth is like man, essentially. Heaven over earth implies that it's someone who can become a ruler. And that has come to be known. I've experimented with a lot of different words. The first one I stayed with for a while was polarizer, because when you look at the patterns of heaven over earth, you've got the extreme expression of yang versus the extreme expression of yin, essentially. So this is a person who is all or nothing in their kind of nature. They're all in or they're all out, essentially. And then I was like, well, that's what a magnet does. It has these different poles.
Yeah.
And when I look at charts, which I do a lot, my father's chart works out that he was a magnetizer, and that he was very magnetic. He had that kind of personality where he'd walk into a room, do his Cheshire Cat grin, and he knew he would get some love, right? So love and connection are really important to the magnetizer type of person, and to
By
feel.
the way,
Yeah.
Luke, you have that, by the way. You have your father's gift.
Thank you very much.
You actually absolutely do, because we've met a number of times at the School of Homeopathy, and I'm just saying this very humbly, but actually, let me start again and just say from Nyla and myself, thank you for what you do, because we have the greatest respect for you and what you give back. And, coming up with what you've come up with is no easy task, and to think, and what's the objective is to help people, right, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so thank you, for all that you do. And you do have, ladies and gentlemen, and I do absolutely mean this, myself and Nyla, with respect, the greatest love and admiration. You have that magnetic quality. So yeah, brilliant.
Thank you very much. Well, you guys, I really appreciate what you're doing too, and it's a very mutual feeling of love and respect. Yeah, let me tell you. So
It's wonderful. I can feel the energy.
yeah.
You mentioned Misha. It's just yesterday, the Turkish School of Homeopathy.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday, as far as the show recording is concerned, it might be weeks by the time it's out. But let's just say on social media recently, okay, there was an old recording of Misha they shared on social media. I don't know if you managed to see it, Nyla.
No, I haven't.
I'll share it with you. And you said about this magnetic quality.
Mm.
It's there. You can actually see it on tape. You
So
can
that,
actually see
yeah.
that. It's just the way, it's that smile and the way Misha was, because he's so he was so in his element.
Mm.
He was so comfortable. He's an individual who was comfortable with who he was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just beautiful, isn't it? Anyway, I digress, but I think it needed to be mentioned.
Yes, absolutely.
Was love and connection, sir.
Yeah, love and connections are extremely important for him. And this is, you could say, the axis of life and death as well. It's the most extreme point. So, and this relates to the cubic crystal structure, this striving for perfection and needing to, have that perfect form is part of the magnetizer archetype. So this is like Aragorn, essentially, from Lord of the Rings. Okay. The guy who's a ranger, who has all of that experience, he's friends with the elves, but he's also the one that can bring everybody together and bring harmony back to Middle Earth. Okay. And then you've got the thunder wind type, which is more like an elf, essentially. So they are more, there's a more flighty energy. And I came to the name seeker for this type of person they are very, they have a quick flash of insight and inspiration, and then they go after that. They're very adventurous sort of spirit. And in the body, it relates to the Vata dosha, which is dry and light and mobile. And so it creates conditions where the joints are hypermobile, or there's too much gas in the body, or it's also it's
very interesting that what you've just said.
catabolic in type. So it's involved when the tissues are moving towards destruction.
Okay. So syphilitic state.
I can see why you'd say that, but I'll come to what I think about the miasms. We can talk about more.
Yeah, let's do.
There's like three kind of tissue types in that relate to the doshas. So you've got catabolic, metabolic, and anabolic, essentially. So they do relate when we come to the body. But it's more like it's someone it's actually more tubercular, sort of fine boned. And when you look at the mineral, it's mostly the monoclinic structure, which is like phosphorus. When the seeker type decompensates, they become like an escapist, and it's more like a gas then. And you think of the helium and neon and the noble gases and hydrogen, people who are spaced out, and so the other side of the seeker is someone who withdraws and spaces out and goes into a druggy kind of state of like ungroundedness. And that's why it's thunder and wind, basically. So it's either got that gentle but penetrating force of wind moving, or it's got that sudden, unpredictable thing that when is the thunder going to happen,
Yeah.
And that's the more ungrounded, spaced out type of person. And that's more like the amorphous crystal structure. And it's like phase one of the plants where you get the ranunculaceae and remedies like opium apart. They're papaveraceae, but they're very closely aligned to, that group of remedies. And actually anything in Ayurveda, it's said that any like psychedelic drug enhances the levels of ether in the body. So the other way to see this, the seeker and the elf archetype is that it's a combination of air and ether. So it's the least grounded of the types. And when I looked at Hahnemann's chart, he's a seeker in his disposition. So he had sudden, inspiration, and then he followed that in a very, adventurous way. And other people could follow him and maybe refine certain elements or make elements of what he was teaching more practical. But he never stopped experimenting and moving as well. He moved so much in his life, and so it's got that tubercular characteristic to him.
It's interesting because you mentioned, and I know Nana wants to ask a question, but just before one second, when you talk about Aragon and the seeker and Hahnemann fighting off those forces, that wanted to suppress or quash him or just get rid of him totally, it's interesting, isn't it? How that is. It's very, very fascinating. Brilliant subject. Nyla.
Yeah, I was just thinking if we can use this and explain it as a well-known remedy. Remedy is a seeker, and that would be
phosphorus is the main one.
Main one.
Phosphorus, tuberculinum. I'm thinking about in the plant realm, the plants that align to the decompensated, spaced out state are like drugs, and particularly opium and noble gases, neon, hydrogen. And if I were to look at other monoclinic minerals, you've got ozone, phosphorus, calc sulf, caliphos, muriatic acid, and sulfuric acid. And also, there's some others like oxygen is another one. So that works very well with the wind idea. So that's the seeker, which is like, more like an elf. So you could say Hahnemann's more like Legolas actually than Aragon.
Okay.
So most of the elves disappear and, go off to their own land, don't they? And then Legolas remains to fight the
Yeah.
all chords, right?
Ella, you need to watch this.
Yeah, you're gonna have to watch it now.
I have to. I
You've
have
got to
to.
watch it. You've got to watch it.
I have
You'll
to watch
fall in
it.
love with it. Trust me.
So then we come to the the fire water pairing, which is like a wizard,
Mm,
essentially. This is like Gandalf, where you're going through a metamorphic process, and Gandalf falls down the abyss and has to fight the Balrog. And then when he returns, he's like ascended to another level of wizardry.
yeah.
Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White. And that's the theme for fire water people. They're constantly having to battle changeable elements, changeable forces.
Mm,
And when I don't know if we talked about it last time, but the alchemical stages, of which there are 7, you can map against this model. And when you look at the alchemical stages for fire water, it's about dissolving and distilling. So
mm,
there are chaotic elements like the Cancer miasm, which comes from the water element in the I Ching. The I Ching for water, some of the themes are the abyss, the army, conflict. So it's this chaotic element that you
mm,
can't control. Whereas fire is to do with like clinging together. And you've got to take care of the fire as humans and gather around the hearth. So it's a lot to do with family and clinging together. Um, and yeah, so you're constantly having to balance these opposing forces, and some of the mineral remedies that align here with the what I call the refiner type are sulfur, bromine, magphos, iodine,
mm,
radium bromatum. And on the other side with fire, there's a lot of gemstones like ruby and quartz, and there's silica, calcarea, um, and tellurium as well, which is connected to sulfur
mm,
by its periodic stage. But it's these are the kind of people that feel like they're never quite accepted, that they're
mm,
always on the fringes of what's going on. That the magnetizer type is like the obvious kind of person that will draw followers and will be at the center of the group. In Sholton's plants, they'd be like a phase 4, whereas the refiner is always, in for phase 2 or phase 6. They're never in the middle. They're always on the outside, and people don't quite understand them. So
mm.
it's a difficult place to be, and you're constantly having to balance
Yeah.
these two difficult forces. Yeah.
Interesting. It really is. I mean, it's so. You know what? Me and Nyla were talking about this just before the podcast, actually, and before this recording. That it's, it, I said this to you last time. It's so exciting, but it's so deep.
Mm.
I have to say, and we spoke about it. It's just a genius mind, Luke. Come on,
Yeah.
seriously, isn't it, Nyla?
I always tell
Come
him
on.
he puts things so nicely together
Yeah, yeah,
and makes it feel like, oh, it's nothing. It's just simple knowledge. And then people step back and see, oh my God, this is some mind-blowing work that he has
yeah,
done. It's it's like you're talking about magnetizer and people follow them, but what
Mm.
you are doing is you're bringing everything that is out there together in
Mm.
mm,
in one form and trying
Yeah.
to make it accessible. Like
Yeah.
what people do is usually what is ancient knowledge, they move forward. Okay, that was old knowledge that is
Yeah.
not relevant nowadays. But what you're doing is you're bringing it. Okay, those people, they were intelligent beings. They didn't have
Mm.
AI. What we
No.
have, just type it and find the answer. They
Yeah.
found their answers by research.
Yeah.
So let's see what they were
mm,
understanding, what they were saying, and how is it relevant in modern times, and bringing, yeah, bringing
Yeah.
everything together,
yeah,
Yeah.
building those
Yeah.
bridges, what we do all the time.
Yeah.
And using that in homeopathy, understanding the human being, understanding the human mind is the
Mm.
complex thing. And
Very
if we can
complex.
just get close to it, doesn't
Yeah.
matter what means we use. If we can just get close to understanding who is that person sitting in front of me,
Mm.
is it a fire, earth,
Mm.
water, I love the analogy of fire clinging together. I was just
Mm,
thinking of
Mm.
fire. What does fire do? Cook. We use fire to cook food.
Yeah,
We use fire to keep ourselves warm.
right.
We, what is warmth? Warmth is family,
Yeah, exactly.
keeping everyone together.
mm.
Keeping everyone together, we have to nurture them, bringing food on the table. If we don't do these nurturing, what does fire do? Destroys.
That's right.
If these things are not right, these basic things are not right, everything is then destroyed.
Yeah. You
So,
have to really tend to the fire and to make
yeah.
sure also, that it doesn't rage and destroy, but also that it always has something to cling to. Like it needs fuel, it needs the wood to cling to be able to come alive.
Mm.
And there's a great film, anime film called Howl's Moving Castle, where it's powered by a fire spirit called Calcifer. And when he's down to his last little log, you can see him clinging on, and he gets really like worried and anxious. He's like, how quick? I need more wood. It's like,
Good.
yeah,
Help, help.
yeah, exactly, yeah,
That's
It's Nyla, you said something very important I wanted to pick up on, which is that this whole thing about knowledge and ancient knowledge, and we use AI and we think such and such, but knowledge is knowledge. It wasn't just made up, right? It was given and it was presented, or it was perceived, or it was observed, and as a result, the human mind is intelligent enough to comprehend and make
yeah,
judgments based on individual perceptions, right? And
yeah,
collectively, those perceptions can result in something very, very good. And this is knowledge, isn't it? That's available.
mm,
And, that's kudos to you because you've actually put it all together. You have not wasted anything.
no,
Knowledge is truth, right? It's absolute truth. And, it's just
yeah,
like we look at planets, we look at time, we look at medicine, we look at the early forms of chemistry and biology, and look where it's knowledge, isn't it? And it's
mm,
profound and it's progressive and
mm,
it's really enlightening.
thank you. Yeah, I mean the guy King Wen who developed the 64 hexagrams out of the 8 trigrams, he was imprisoned. So he played with it in his mind while he was imprisoned
Hmm.
until he got to the point where he could perceive this grid of like 8 by 8 by 8, and then slowly through experience and contemplation of life and its cycles, these archetypes evolved that are written down in the
Isn't it interesting, Luke, though?
yeah,
Because I'll bring Nyla into this as well. That look, we spoke about Hahnemann. I'm getting slightly off on tangent, but hey, it wouldn't be the homeopathy health show if I didn't go off on a tangent. Okay,
of course.
totally out into the etheric field. Okay, but here we go. So
Yeah.
it's interesting because he was so committed and he persevered with everything despite the brutality and calling him names and
Mm.
all these problems that arose as a result, and striking him off, moving home 30 times.
Yeah.
Wasn't a delivery driver that you call. It was literally horse and cart,
Mm.
walking around lugging his stuff around. And then you've just mentioned this gentleman who was in prison.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing we do in prison is, right, when are we going to get out? Or
Yeah.
are we going to eat? Or are we going to get, well, for want of a better word, are we going to get beaten? Right?
Mm. Mm.
But they're thinking, aren't they? Their thinking level is so deep,
Yeah.
profound, right?
Yeah.
They're not worried. This is all superficial stuff, petty stuff, right?
Yeah.
The brain is ticking along at such a high resonance, isn't it?
Yeah. In human design, the gate that's associated with ideas is called peace in
Oof.
the I Ching. So you can't have any good ideas unless you're at peace within yourself.
Okay, that's for that. I have goosebumps. I just want to say, I've got goosebumps.
Let it be known.
Look, can you see?
Yeah.
Well, no, just I mean, Nyla, when there's something very profound, she has goosebumps, and
Yeah.
I'm new to this. And I
Okay.
always wondered. In fact, just a week ago, I was thinking, wonder what that feels like. And I'm actually, hope I
Uh,
don't get them all the time now. But
you're getting it. You're getting
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Anyway,
Now,
yeah.
now you know. Now you
No,
know.
I know. Yeah.
Well, what you're saying, to go back into it, the seeker will have this like new idea, like Hahnemann. Then
Hmm.
the refiner, which is my main type at the disposition level, their job is to refine it, to put
Yeah.
it into the alchemical mix and say, okay, this new idea is brilliant, but let's understand the ancient laws that underpin that and try and bring them together and the other side of the refiner is the mutator, someone who's going to bring change through this like alchemical process of distillation. So that's the wizard, and then that leaves us with the what I call the integrator type, and the integrator type aligns more with the hobbits and the dwarves essentially, and it's about making everything practical and usable for the community, if you like. So you've got the magnetizers, the kind of like the central figure, the central pillar, if you like, the mother and the father. Thunder and Wind, the elf, are like the eldest daughter and the eldest son. They go out on the adventure. The middle daughter and the middle son is like the wizard who have to put everything into the melting pot and bring something new out. And then the integrator has to integrate it all and make it all like practical and usable. And there's a sense of like being a bridge in some way between the different types as an integrator. And Carl Jung, his chart works out that he was very strongly an integrator. So yeah, there's a lot more one could say, but I want to bring it back to Hahnemann again. So he basically says that when you're treating someone who's ill, you need to look at three main things, which is the constitution, the Geist and the Gemüt, which is the like emotions and the mind, which I call the disposition, and the miasm, essentially. So I'm looking at those three things when I draw up a chart now. And I'm calling these four different types. I'm saying that they're like ancestral voices that work through a person. And you have to be able to listen which ancestral voice is speaking to you the loudest. Is it from their body, from their constitution? Because that's one layer. Is it their disposition, which is how they meet external realities? So how do they relate to other people? What is their sense of purpose, and are they fulfilling it? And that aligns more with like the essence style of homeopathic prescribing. You try and, who is this person? Who is the essence of this person? You try and gauge that. And I would almost always try and gauge that, but sometimes it wouldn't really work. And I've realized now that actually what you need is to address the soil first, which is the constitution. And the constitution is actually can be, when you look at a chart, it's often a different type. So someone like me has, at the dispositional level, is a refiner, but at the body level, I'm very strongly an integrator. So if something's, basically, if I'm doing fine in terms of my sense of purpose and what I'm putting out into the world, I don't need a remedy for that particular thing. But if my body's suffering, I need a remedy at the constitutional level. And then the third aspect is, of course, the miasmatic level. And we see that when we call it a stuck case often. It's not enough, right? There's a block to the vital force, use a nosode, right? It's where where everything else is so blocked that you have to go with a miasmatic remedy instead. So there's these three levels that I'm working with when I look at charts. And I think that's probably enough. I'll let you stop me from rambling. Otherwise,
I have no question, so I'm going to pass over to Naila.
No, I really enjoyed this, because you have brought it down to the three levels that you're working with, and you mentioned that if your body is suffering, you will go back to the constitutional level, and there's always a debate in homeopathic community. Do we work with the top layer? Do we work with the constitution? And I think what you're working here is making it accessible to find that core constitutional layer that is sometimes hidden under all the layers of the onion that we sometimes don't see in our clinic. And these tools are going to help us maybe go back to those polycrest remedies. I feel like we are born polycrest, and then we go into one state and another state because of what is happening around us. So can you say a little bit more that your body is suffering and you can then give the constitutional level remedy?
Yeah, well, okay, you just reminded me of a cool thing. Philip Pullman's book, his Dark Materials. Have you heard of that? It was made into a film, but it's
Oh, yes,
an
yes.
amazing fantasy book, a bit like Lord of the Rings, so you can see where my interests lie. But essentially, in this book, when you're a child, you have a daemon, which is like a spirit, an animal spirit that accompanies
Yes,
you,
yes,
and
yes.
it almost senses things before you do. And when you meet another person, your daemons can meet each other too. So these ancestral voices are like your daemon, essentially. And when you're a child, the daemon is shape-shifting. And when you become an adult, it goes into one form. And so when you're a child, you need more help at the bodily constitutional level because your sense of purpose is not really an issue yet. It's about nurturing the foundations first. And then when you become older, your sense of purpose and what you're here to do in life becomes more important. And therefore that level will become more important for homeopathic case taking and prescribing. But essentially, most people need help at that constitutional level first because you can't even expect to be able to fulfill your purpose until the body is working correctly and that's what Hahnemann says. Health is that you have freedom to explore the higher purposes, and you can't have freedom until your constitutional level has been healed. And
Yeah.
all of his work is around healing that constitutional level. But in modern homeopathy, almost all the work is looking at the dispositional level. And that's why we have all these different remedies. So the disposition is like your nature, your purpose, how you meet external reality. And it's more at the mental emotional level than at the bodily level. Yeah. So I've noticed that you might give a remedy that matches what you think is the dispositional level, and it works for a bit, and then it stops working, and you think, oh, their constitution needs some help now.
Yeah.
So you can then look at that level, and the chart will tell you, that they might be like with my son. He's a magnetizer at all three levels according to his chart, and that creates a very, very fixed type of person essentially. At all levels, they're a magnetizer.
I've seen his chart. It's such a colorful chart.
Yeah,
It's brilliant, isn't it?
Brilliant.
Hey, it's brilliant. It's so
Brilliant.
exciting.
It's done.
So exciting.
I'm just waiting for what he comes up with. You don't have
Yeah.
an easy life, I'm telling you that. So
Yeah.
this is extremely interesting because what we are talking about now is I'm thinking it from that perspective. If the wound that needs healing is in those early years, we need to fix that first, so
Correct.
that the person can actually fulfill their purpose. What they are thinking is their purpose. Like everyone is here to do what they want to do. So if that wound is not healed, if that help is not there at the constitutional level at that time,
Yeah.
pathology arises, and that's why there are so many varied type of pathologies out there.
Yeah.
Because we are stuck at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's very, very, very interesting because this takes us back to that debate. Do we treat who is in front of us, or do we treat who is at the back burner, or who is the forgotten memory, actually?
Yeah.
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 That's a deep one.
It
That's a
is.
really good question, actually.
I'm gonna share some details about a patient whose chart says that at her dispositional level, which is like the most individualized level actually, and where the vitality expresses itself the most strongly, if possible, she's a magnetizer, which is heaven and earth, which is a cubic mineral, and she had done very well on calc fluor. She was getting a lot of illnesses. She as a child she had a lot of illnesses, recurrent abscesses, and was diagnosed with Hashimoto's even. And she did well on the functional medicine for a while, was given, desiccated thyroid for a while. And then with homeopathy, she made greater strides with, sort of thyroidinum, of course. And she had carcinosin and quite a lot of strep remedies to help clear all of the inflammation that was there, like streptococcinum, enteroxinum, and these kinds of things. And then I got to a point where whenever she had an acute, she needed sulfur. And I was like, she's really not a sulfur type, but it repertorizes well and it works. And now when I look at the chart at the miasmatic level, she's a refiner. So I was like, okay, when her vital force is blocked, she needs sulfur. It makes sense. But at a like more core level, she needs like a cubic mineral. And so recently they made this big move, and from one country to another. And she's what, like, when's she born? She is, what is she, 9 years old, something like that. So, it's a change in her class at primary school. And she talked, so I saw her, and normally she's like really vivacious and you know, loves talking, really like confident, very, very much like a magnetizer. People are drawn to her because she's
Mm.
so vivacious and inspiring. But she was really down. She had to leave her BFF from school, and she'd because she was a high flyer, she'd been put up a year, but then she felt like she couldn't do it anymore.
Mm.
And she felt like, I can't cope. And when she couldn't cope, she would take herself off to the toilet and have a cry. And so she'd have her meltdown by herself. And she was feeling sort of really emotional and down. And let's see. I mean, that's basically the case. And at first I prescribed her sepia, and it didn't really work that well. And then I changed to
Mm.
Natrum Mure, and like, you know, much, much better. She was like instantly better and back to herself, essentially.
Brilliant.
So, it's a cubic mineral, and it fits the case perfectly, has all her symptoms. So it helps me to like accept that sometimes it is just a really simple answer and a really simple remedy that's needed.
Yeah.
Explains the thyroid pathology as well, because natrimures, they develop you as farther away you are from the sea, your thyroid is affected, iodine is affected, you're not getting enough iodine,
Mm.
Yeah.
maybe selenium, and then you are in this hustle bustle of life, everything is busy, and
Mm.
what happens? Thyroid gets affected. Thyroid, if you are under stress, you have to do this thing. It is it's the yeah. I love our polycrest. Natramure is one of the
Mm.
4 layers of
Mm.
because our cells. What is the salt in our cells?
Mm.
Natramure, salt.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Each and every single cell of our body, we have
Yeah.
salt in it.
Yeah.
If the salt is not balanced, we are not balanced.
Correct. Yeah.
This
That's
takes me
so
to
good. That's such a valid thing, isn't it? It's
my,
so like,
my
there.
mind. My mind lights up after half an hour of a podcast where we.
Yeah.
But
No
now
comment. No comment.
I'm just now thinking. Because I'm yeah. This faith. I know. I'm already fascinated. I'm following you, Luke. I mean, messaging because the work you do is amazing,
Mm. Absolutely.
brilliant. Takes me back to the metridonal remedies now.
Mm.
If we have an issue, if we have had uh, what we say, a stone was thrown at
Mm.
at that stage, pregnancy, first 2 years of our life, birth
Mm.
process, that is the time when a pathology can arise for the
Mm.
mother or for the child, or that
Mm.
that will have a lasting imprint for their life. And
Mm.
I feel that those remedies are coming up in my practice recently,
Mm. Mm.
and those,
Mm.
because that connection is not there. That when we were actually starting to build the building blocks of our life,
Mm.
something happened.
Yeah.
Something disrupted the energy levels. Something made us stuck into that polar opposite state.
Mm.
And
Mm.
how are we going to get back now? And
Yes.
that is why we go back to Natramura as well, because that is also a core element in those metridonal remedies as well. Fruit water,
Mm. Mm.
placenta, cells, Natramure there.
Mm.
Mm.
All these remedies, they invite, and then when I repertorize them, I recently had a case where I'm going to prescribe placenta. Natramure is the second or third remedy that is coming up in the
Mm.
repertorization chart.
Mm.
Inosine is another remedy that's coming up. Calc
Mm.
is another remedy that's coming up. If we repertorize all those remedies, why are they are not coming by chance? Why are they in those rubrics?
Correct.
The reason we are in that
Yeah.
state where we
Mm.
can actually intertwine all these things and help our patients.
Correct. Correct. So I think, if you try the remedy that's well known and the repertorizes well and it has a less than desirable effect, you're looking at allied remedies based on your experience and your idea and saying that, placenta could be an ally of Natrum Mure. And so thinking of remedies in terms of they're in the same bandwidth, right?
Mm.
Mm.
They're allies. I think that's how we access things that aren't in the repertory yet when we have a case that doesn't respond to the indicated
Yeah.
remedy from that. And then eventually you have enough experience to say, look, I know it's placenta, not Natrum Mure, because I've had enough placenta cases to know that now. And
Yeah,
then
Yeah.
exactly.
ideally you start putting that information into the repertory based on your experience.
And
And then
definitely. And yeah,
the focus
go with
is-
Natrum because those are the tried and tested remedies. Go with that. That will move the case forward.
Mm,
70% of the healing or 70% of the case will will be better, and then go on and refine tune your and find the better matching remedy for the 30% that is left.
Mm.
yeah.
And I see that we are at the end of the episode and the conversation
But
has
but
yet
but but
started.
we are at the end. But I have one very short question.
Yes.
Actually, what would the show be if I didn't have a question for you, or for Nyla, or for
Absolutely.
anybody on this planet listening to this episode? But I suppose it's not actually a question. It's just food for thought. So, I
Yeah.
was reading up a few years ago now that they said that once you have spoken the word and it's gone out, because
Mm,
it's energy,
yeah.
it's never wasted. You just have to find it. And
Mm,
there was research going on where they can capture sound or voices from
mm,
100,000 years ago.
mm,
Mm.
I don't know where that research is now, right? Where
mm,
how far it's progressed.
mm,
But it just got me thinking with what you, Nyla, and yourself were talking about and ancestral energy.
mm.
Maybe it's voices, literally voices from the past, because it's
Mm,
all energy. So I
yeah.
just thought I'd get that out there.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely something in that. And I think that connecting ourselves to our ancestors through this model, like that's probably what led me to using that terminology and
Mm,
the fact that it was our ancestors who came up with the I Ching, right?
yeah.
So it's like we're speaking with them when we use this model and when we can perceive our patients as fitting with these four broad archetypes, yeah. And I do think that for me it's a very great help, and I'm putting pen to paper, hoping that I'll be able to finish my book soon.
I,
Hopefully,
I,
yes.
I, I would say, yeah. Sorry.
That was going to be my next question. How can our audience find more about this research?
Yeah.
Through you guys at the moment.
Woohoo! Well, there you go. And that's
You
what
got
you
the
Yay.
call
scoop.
a world exclusive, hey?
Yeah.
That's Lord of the Rings
Definitely.
part 7, 8, and 9, eh?
Yeah.
With Luke Norland.
Yes, that is actually really interesting because we can come back to it in a
Yeah,
few months' time, see
we
where
will.
you are, and get it out there, get what you have done, how you, because it is coming to shape. It is now, I think, at a place where we can
Yeah.
Yeah,
over to Luke publishing your new book.
brilliant. Hey, well, hey, this is, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask this. If it's a no, don't answer the question, Luke. But because you have been on the show and because this is where everyone heard of it first, you know where I'm going, right, with this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as you have a book,
Yeah.
it'd be nice to write a little something from us, in the book.
Absolutely.
This is
Absolutely.
how you make decisions, okay?
Yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
I'm going to the publishing ceremony anyway. I've told you, I will be there when you are going to publish
Brilliant,
and
brilliant.
celebrate. Now,
Yeah.
even if you don't call me, I'll be there.
No, let's do that.
Yeah, maybe we can do a live show from there, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Luke, for being here. Thank you for being part of the show. Always a delight to
Mm,
listen to you, to, see your work progressing, and many years to come. Many years for homeopathy. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're right.
It's
Thank
yeah,
you.
it's
Yeah.
been an absolute honor. and it always will be. And of course, let's talk very soon indeed, I think. And let's meet very soon indeed as well, actually.
We will. Yeah, no doubt.
Wonderful.
Thank you both. Thank you.
I do hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Homeopathy Health Show. Please do support the show by clicking follow on my socials. Remember, the more exposure the podcast receives, the better for homeopathy around the world. You can find me on Instagram by searching for @like_treatslike, and on both Facebook and TikTok by searching for @like_treatslike. So let's promote the voice of homeopathy on radio and podcast around the world together. Don't forget to visit me online at www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast tab. Here you'll be able to see all the guests that have joined me on the show so far, and of course you can stream on demand the latest episode to your mobile, tablet or PC. Until next time, stay safe and take care.